Hello, everyone again. Now I would like to talk a little bit more details about our paper. The model average is asymptotically better than model selection for prediction. So first, I would like to remind the predictive perspective. There is a folk theorem saying that the best predictor for the future outcome will be based on the true model. Of course, we assuming the true models it exists at least in an asymptotic sense. But suppose the true model doesn't exist, the true model is not known, or the true model cannot be even identified. Then in that situation, how do we obtain a good predictions? So basically in this situation, we will give ourselves a list of the candidates of the models to help us identify the good predictors, assuming that the list of the models here, they were chosen smart, they were chosen intelligently, and we assume that the subject matter experts, they give us the model list that they think this list will contain one or more models close to the true model, or at least this list contains the model they thought to be useful. So this setting similar as the setting the prediction with experts' advice. Again, in our paper here, we focus on the model averages for prediction in the complex problems. And our goal here is to show formally that the 6 popular model average will give better predictions than using any of their components good. This principle is not new, but given the current interest in prediction, the theoretical examination of the popular model average is timely. And you may know that there are many kinds of theorems that can be proved about the model average. And we classified these theorems into 3 types of theorems that we will deal with here in our paper. First, we classify the theorems into the category we call the consistency theorem. The consistency theorem for the parameters. These parameter can be the parameter in the individual models, or the weightings for each model. The weight for each model. This kind of theorems is actually we consider they are in a estimation perspective, not in a prediction perspective. Second, we consider the second type of theorems. They are the theorems about the inequalities for the empirical risk for predictions. often these theorems will take the form of the oracle inequalities. We call it oracle because it's as if an oracle will know how to predict the value of the response y asymptotically optimally without actually knowing the best predictor. So why the two kinds of theorems, the consistency theorem and the empirical risk theorems. These theorems are important for us to understanding and using the model average predictors, but they do not justify why model average are generally better than the other predictors. So that's why we consider the third type of theorems here in our paper is the most important. The third type of theorems are the results that show model average predictors are asymptotically better or no worse than the other predictors. Usually, these later predictors are taken to be the predictors used to form the average. So basically, this third type of theorems based on the prediction perspective. Indeed, the comparisons between a model average and its component predictors, they are the standard way to verify that the predictive gain from using a model average is worth the cost in interpretability from not simply selecting a single model. This is from the point of minimizing the regret. The regret is the amount by which a predictor could have done better by using one of the models in the average. So we consider it is these theorems of this third type. They are the main contributions in our paper. Again, the 6 model average predictors we consider in our paper are the MMA. First, the MMA, the Marlowe model average. That minimizes an objective function based on the Marlowe model selection principle. The second predictor is the BMA, the base model average that optimize a posterior variance. And the third predictor is the stacking model average. It optimizes a criterion based on cross validation. And the fourth predictor here, we consider the random forest that tend to stabilize the good but unstable predictors. And next, the fifth, we consider the backing predictors in more general. And the sixth one is the boosting predictor. Boosting will optimize an objective function based on the exponential loss. So for each of these model average techniques, we provide the theorems for the type 1, type 2, and type 3 theorems, as we mentioned before. So first, we show the 3 types of theorems for the MMA, the Marlowe model average. This technique based on the linear models, but this case, this is the case in which many of the main features of the nonlinear models can be easily seen. Also, next we study the BMA predictor under the square error loss. Even though the BMA is not based on the linear models, when the models in the average are well behaved, we can show that we can show the theorems of the type 1, type 2, and type 3. And we show how in some settings with increasing dimensions of the explanatory variables can be included. Next, we also study the stacking model average predictor. And again, we give the versions of the 3 types of the results for the infinite dimensional explanatory variables S. And we'll also discuss the case when the dimension of the explanatory variable is increasing. And then we turn to the back-in predictor. In this case, because there is only one model and the average is formed by the bootstrapping. So we show the versions of these 3 types of theorems, but these theorems are of a different character than for the MMA, the BMA, or the stacking predictors. And then we also adapt our result from the previous section to the case of random forests, because random forests, they are usually also the back trees with a built-in the correlation procedure. And then finally, we formally deal with the boosting regression. Boosting were originally designed for classification. So our results here do not rest much on the empirical risk theorem, but we do address the consistency and the component prediction, the predictive theorems. As a proxy for empirical risk, however, we are able to observe that the boosting regression predictor is derived from a set of classifiers that achieve the optimal base risk for classification asymptotically. Our results here not only hold in the independent but not identical setting, but it also holds in the case for the wrong model, independent but not identical setting. That means our result also correct when the true model not in the modelists. Again, we also show that any good predictors that are not Bayesian, they are also nearly Bayesian at least. Again, these will be seen in our results, showing that the back-in and the random forest they actually can be considered as a pseudo BMA in a limiting sense. And we also show that boosting for regression has a Bayes justification from the classification, and showing that stacking predictor is asymptotically a Bayes action. And moreover, the symbol one technique, the MMA, the Marlowe model average, which is based on regression, and is it known that the Bayesian linear regression under the normal priors is equivalent to the regular frequentist regression as the prior become more spread out. So it is also reasonable to consider MMA as a Bayesian justification. So that's pretty much summarizing our paper, and we hope you enjoy reading our paper. For details at the JMLR website, and we can discuss later at the conference. Thank you very much, and see you soon.